How's everyone doing?
How are we looking at? I don't know. What you look at now? We're looking on the ground. That's pretty good. I think ours is okay. Hello, crowd mic. Crowd mic.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
She's saying we asked them a question, right? Oh, good. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hello? One.
Sounds good.
Actually told us to yell for you guys. I'm sorry. You said 1, 2, 3, 4. Pakai tadi dah kan?
I'm on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, I got a letter from
In the top tier? Cool.
2 weekends ago for jumping. Yeah, yeah. They're on top of it.
I mean, we have the time. We have the mic.
Like my steel homework and been like looking at some going. I never. And if you see here, the answer is.
Wait, you were in past round? Wait, what are the other classes? Dirt, water.
Dirt, water, steel, concrete.
Yeah, you're right.
You haven't gotten to concrete yet.
I have not done concrete.
You're taking dirt? No, he's already taking it.
Nominating someone for great.
Senior year class. Like dirt? No. Well, it's soil science. Wait,
Yeah.
No, that's senior class.
I know.
Why is
And steel. Right? And water.
There's a way to run a business. What was the that? Okay.
It's just like solid, it's not moving.
Dirt's like. We're going to test each individual mic to make sure we're getting audio. The YouTube stream is on delay, so the person listening to our stream is going to take a couple seconds to give me a thumbs up. Mike, I'm going to go with this one.
Are we starting?
I'm going to try this.
Talk closer. Talk closer. Right.
He just said.
Very
1,
nice
2,
job.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Killing turtles. Trapping fish.
You put it
One.
like that. I accidentally bought glass straws instead of metal straws because glass.
1,
So I wasn't paying
2,
attention to
3,
it, but,
4, 5, 6,
a
7,
good deal.
8, 9, 10.
Are you with the TV?
Yeah, I'll take it
I like how
actually.
you dress up for me occasionally,
One.
Dylan. I respect that. Oh, you're done. It's
3,
over though.
5, 6, 7, 8.
I was thinking about it.
Go front and you come prepared to. Why are the solar panels no longer on Davis? That's what I
Well, that's what I want to know. Because they were ruining the whole building? So, I was talking to somebody from, like, buildings apparently they were installed wrong originally.
They're testing mics.
The way that they were mounted to the roof was then because it was just
Let's go micless.
Our mics are on.
No mix. No mix.
We can project.
Yeah, we can project. You and I are both very loud people.
Can confirm. After the noodle fight in the hallway.
they might be with a different company.
I was ready to kill you guys.
That was fun. I don't know why you have to ruin our fun every
I was
week.
like, yeah, talking. Yep. Can we really not hear anything?
1, 2, 3, 4. All right.
Give us a count to 10 and then you give us a second.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
That's good. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So
What do I sound like?
Sound over voltage.
Over what?
That's like the popping sound.
Oh, I can hear what you said.
You're just
On camera.
You're just a timer, Anthony.
We all want them, yeah.
Proud of you.
Are you showing your sustainability?
I'm endorsing sustainability. We need to go.
I don't know, I think Matthew and Molly should have advertised their job before. That's their really good.
Yeah.
Very good sense of fashion. I like it. Oh, can they hear me? Mom really did good for me.
Just don't speak directly into the mic. We can hear you on stream. Everyone's a little quiet though. These guys are good. You guys are good.
We're good?
Cool.
Okay.
Now you guys one final check before we get started.
Okay. This is a great
I have meeting at 10:35.
Doesn't sound like it's working. Wait, can people hear me? Sounds like people can hear me. Cool.
Carbonated water. I don't like that. Water doesn't use carbonated. Change my mind.
All right. Everybody, we're going to get started. If we could have silence, please. Hello, thank you, good evening. And thank you all so much for coming out to the Student Government Association's Presidential and Vice President of Operations debate. If you are unable to come, we hope that you're enjoying the live stream, courtesy of SIT TV.
So the debate will open with opening statements from each ticket who will have 3 minutes to give their opening statement. It'll be followed by 55 minutes for questions gathered from a survey, followed by questions from the audience, and then after that we will be doing closing statements, 2 minutes per ticket.
Okay, so we're going to meet all the candidates first. We have brief introductions lined up, and then after that you will each receive 3 minutes for your own opening statements. So we're going to introduce each ticket one at a time, and then in between our introductions you guys can have your 3 minutes for opening statements. Does that sound good?
All right, on our first ticket is Jason Clues running for president, and Ryan Tom running for vice president of operations. Jason Clues is a second-year software engineering major. He joined the Student Government Association this fall and now serves on the budget committee. Within the SGA, he has worked to restructure SGA meetings and plans to work on district emails. On campus, Jason is also involved in the Software Engineering Club and is a brother of Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. Jason has also worked with the Career Center in order to make their services more widely utilized among other students.
And Ryan Tom is a third-year QF major, also pursuing an economics minor with a concentration in finance and economics. During his time at Stevens, he has been involved in many different aspects of our campus. Over the summers, Ryan has served as a peer leader and as a pre-college program residence assistant. He is a brother of Sigma Phi Epsilon, where he has served as the United Greek Council chairman, the Residential Learning Committee co-chair, and he is currently serving on the recruitment committee and holds the position of the Balanced Man Scholarship co-chair. In the academic sphere, Ryan hosts exam reviews for his peers and is a course assistant for Professor Calhoun for QF 101 and 102. He is a founding member of the Stevens Society of Automotive Engineers, currently serving as their treasurer, and is also currently in the process of working with his startup co-founders through the Stevens Venture Center. He is also a member of the Stevens Student Engagement Committee and a member of the club ski and snowboard team, competing in freestyle and alpine. During his freshman and sophomore years, Ryan served as a senator of the SGA on the Academic and Curriculum Advancement Committee, focusing on improving the opportunities for business and Cal students. He currently serves as Speaker of the Senate.
Would you guys like to give your opening statement now?
Hello, everybody. Is this good? We're going to mic closer. Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Clues. This is Ryan Tom. I guess I'll just start with saying that our main tagline for our campaign is to creating better opportunities through accountability, efficiency, and communication within the administration, faculty, SGA, and student body. We feel this embodies the spirit of our campaign and really encompasses our goals on a broad scale. The most central component of our platform is the initiatives we plan to undertake with the administration. We want to ensure the students can collaborate with the administration, and specifically the students are involved in the decision-making process for the key issues that will have a direct impact on themselves. We believe that one of the central issues facing Stevens is the upper-level administration focuses on improving the school's ranking rather than actually improving the student experience.
All right, thank you.
Oh,
sorry.
We're still going. Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
We will also push for clarity with the school's spending. The student activity fee is just $230 per student, and yet that funds clubs, the entertainment committee, club sports, Tech Fest, and Founders Day Ball, and that's after a good chunk is already taken off the top by the school. Considering students pay tens of thousands of dollars in tuition every year, they shouldn't have to dig through tax documents to see how that money is spent.
Additionally, we plan to improve Stevens' academics while maintaining the school's educational integrity. Classes should be designed so that students learn, yet many classes just don't accomplish that. On top of that, rather than restructuring classes so that students can better understand the material, many professors just curve the classes. This leaves students in a position where they are passing classes and getting decent grades, but without actually learning anything, and that needs to change.
Another major problem affecting Stevens is campus pride. We believe the first step to increasing pride is to reinstate the Wednesday academic break to the original time of 1 to 5 p.m. The administration shortened the break last spring to accommodate the increased number of class sections needed as the university continues to grow. However, once the Gianforte Family Academic Center building opens, this should no longer be an issue. We feel that reinstating the academic break will allow for more amazing events to happen during the week that will improve the student experience.
Finally, we plan to reevaluate the SGA itself by fixing and eliminating broken and unnecessary processes. We plan on making the SGA the role model of other clubs, and by being efficient, organized, and successful. These are only some of the major objectives that we would like to pursue if elected. We have already established even more ideas and initiatives that we plan to undertake. But most importantly, we will be open to any suggestions made by students, ensuring that their voices and our voices will be heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And on the second ticket, we have Mark Krupinski running for president and Alexander Murtaugh running for vice president of operations. Mark Krupinski is a junior computational science major with a concentration in computational oceanography. Mark is a member of the STUT, having served on the executive board since freshman year as outreach chair and currently as business manager. He is also a brother of Lodge and has served as their philanthropy chair and assistant recruitment chair. In the past, he has also been the roving reporter for SIT TV and served as orientation leader. He also works as a grader within the math department and is a member of the Stevens Student Voice Committee. Mark joined the SGA this semester and currently serves as a member of the Oversight Committee, Student Faculty Alliance, and is the chair of the Academic and Curriculum Advancement Committee, where he focuses on improving the freshman courses at Stevens.
And for Vice President of Operations on this ticket, we have Alexander Murtaugh. Alexander Murtaugh is a junior civil engineering major. He is heavily involved with the STUT and is currently acting as their outreach chair. His other involvements on campus include the American Society of Civil Engineers and Stevens College Republicans, where he serves as secretary. Alex is also the founding and current president of Stevens Martial Arts and Defense Club. In addition, he works as a tour guide for the admissions office and as a grader for mechanics of solids. He is a brother of Sigma Phi Epsilon, where he serves as a floor manager. Alex has also been a part of the Student Faculty Alliance, a committee within the SGA. You now have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark. I'm Alex. So our main focus for running for SGA president and vice president is that we feel that the SGA does not serve the needs of the everyday student here at Stevens. Right now, the needs of the SGA, it really focuses on just the student leaders. The SGA should be the encompassing thing that everybody will look to and provide guidance. For us, we take a look at the main Stevens experience, and we've broken it down to 3 pillars which are necessary to improve that affects everybody on campus: living, learning, and social. So for living, we understand it costs a lot of money to live in Hoboken, especially if you try to live in SLH through Res Life, which everybody who is a sophomore and onward, if they choose to live through Stevens, that's what they have to do. We want to create a network of students who choose not to live through SLH in order to provide better connections and services for finding apartments. We'd also like to work with creating a partnership with a realtor going forward in order to give Stevens students discounts on housing in the future.
In addition, our second pillar of learning, we want to expand learning opportunities for Stevens students both inside and outside of the classroom. Inside of the classroom, one of our main focuses is to place undergraduate TAs in both sophomore and freshman level courses where they can be of use. Obviously, these will be people that have done well in that class and can really teach the material well, better than current graduate students can that haven't had that same Stevens experience. In addition, we want to revitalize the link between faculty and students. Currently, that link hasn't been as utilized as it should be. Students are missing out on a lot of opportunities because they're not interacting and talking with professors on a regular basis, only through a classroom setting. So we want to work to help create a bigger network between students and faculty and move that relationship forward. In addition, our third pillar, the social pillar, we want to make it easier for people to get involved on campus. Like Mark said, we're not just about the student leaders, we're also about the people that haven't found their passion yet here on this campus. There's over 100 clubs, but yet nonetheless, people still can't find exactly where they want to go. So we're going to publish a list stating regular meeting times for clubs, regular meeting locations for clubs, in order to help revitalize that connection in addition with other things. In addition, we want to help improve the co-op program so everybody has the opportunity to participate in the co-op program, not just engineers and CS majors. It's not fair to business students that really have potential and could prove it in the co-op program.
So it all comes down to for us is we want to improve the student experience for everybody, not just the select student leaders that we feel the SGA caters to.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, our third ticket is Jonathan Darlak running for president and Timothy Barrett running for vice president of operations. John Darlak is a third-year mechanical engineering major. John is a brother of Kappa Sigma fraternity and has served as their school and sports chair. John is also an active member of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers and participated in the team robotics last year. John has been a senator in the SGA since his freshman year. During his time in the Senate, he has served on the Oversight Committee as a Secretary per temp on the Student Advisory Board, as the chair of the Municipal Affairs Committee, and as a freshman senator and mentor. John has also served on the Campus Life Committee since fall 2016 and is currently the chair of the committee, where he has been working to bring new initiatives to campus.
And Timothy Barrett. Tim is a Jersey native who is currently in his 3rd year here. Tim is pursuing a major in computer science and a minor in economics. Tim became a senator of the SGA 2 years ago as a freshman, and during his time in the SGA, he has served for 2 semesters on the Budget Committee, 2 semesters on Campus Life Committee, and he is currently the chair of the Ad Hoc Website Committee, as well as a member of the Public Relations Committee. As chair of the Website Committee, Tim has been working on developing a compiled hub for all information pertaining to the student government. Last semester, Tim also served on the Founders Day Ball Committee, where he primarily organized music and light arrangements for the ball. You now have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
All right, here we go. All right, so first of all, Dakota and Maria, thank you for taking the time to proctor this debate tonight. And also to all of you for showing up tonight, and for those tuning in at home. And anyway, it is really good to see that everyone is invested in making the best decision they can make when it comes to choosing the next voice of the student body. Taking time out of your busy schedule to get to know the candidates about their initiatives and what they're all about is really important. Briefly, again, to just touch on my leadership experience regarding the position, I'm an Eagle Scout. I was a peer leader this past summer. I was an orientation leader. I've chaired multiple ad hoc committees within the student government, and I am currently chairing the Campus Life Committee. Again, within my involvement in the Kappa Sigma fraternity, I have revitalized my time management skills, but I do understand that when it does come, to the outcome of this election, the presidency would be my sole and single responsibility. I understand that you all, as a collective student body, would be my #1 priority. To ensure continued success throughout my term, essentially, I would make sure to nurture the relationships between the cabinet members so that we can all excel at what we do and we enjoy what we do. Because I'm not going to treat this position as a job, it's going to be my lifestyle that I'm going to embody for the entirety of the year.
So yeah, like John, I've been a senator for the past 2 years since freshman year. And in addition to that, I have also served a year on the Budget Committee and a year on the Campus Life Committee. Again, you guys did a great intro. I'm currently chairing the SGA Website Ad Hoc Committee. Currently, I'm on the PR committee working with great people to raise awareness of SGA initiatives and accomplishments. And as Vice President, I will be focusing primarily on the framework of an efficient and effective Senate. I would ensure that there would be a system of deliverables and expectations between cabinet members, subcommittee heads, and senators to make sure that everybody's working together smoothly so we can get as much done as possible. I will also see that if there are any complications within the Senate, that they are addressed and a solution is found.
So Tim and I, we do have 3 platforms, or 3 pillars that are structuring our goals for the upcoming year. They are striving to improve together. Now you may say that that acronym coincides with Stevens Institute of Technology, SIT. We're trying to play a little bit with that there. But in all seriousness, we are striving to enhance the level of sustainability at Stevens. For example, within the Campus Life Committee, there are a lot of initiatives taking place now that have been in the works for a couple weeks and months. For example, we're looking towards getting possibly compost piles on campus, getting clothing pick-up and drop-off locations in the new buildings coming, and then also on a bigger scale, looking towards better sources of renewable energy.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, that's all the time you guys have. All right.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more, ask us after.
All right. We will now move on to questions submitted by members of the student body. Each ticket will have 2 minutes to answer the question, and after each ticket has had the chance to answer, they will be given the opportunity to respond. Each ticket has the opportunity for 1 minute of response. Some of the questions are directed at either the presidential candidate or the vice presidential candidate, while others apply to both. We will distinguish who should answer the question before we state it.
So our first question, submitted by the student body. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So in order to make this streamlined process, the first question that we ask, we're going to posed to the two of you. And then your ticket will get the first chance to answer, your ticket, and then your ticket. The second question we ask will begin with you, followed by your ticket, and then your ticket. Third ticket, and then we will continue to rotate, all right? Great. So the first question for John and Tim first is, if you wouldn't mind elaborating a little bit more than you already have in each of your opening statements, what past experiences within the SGA or in other leadership positions prepare you to represent the interests of the student body as a whole in these positions as President and Vice President of Operations. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So when it comes to addressing student interest on campus, especially with a lot of the freshman feedback I've been getting as an orientation leader, people are noticing there's campus improvements that can be made. As the Campus Life Committee Chair, I've already been reaching out to Frank LaCastro, the Assistant Vice President of Facilities, and Bob Mafia, the Vice President of Facilities. So I've been working towards initiatives that our committee has been working on. We're also looking towards campus artwork, making the campus more modern. Students see that they're not really able to express themselves as much. So a fellow Senator, Isabella Beastie, and Alita Tudor, they're currently working on a proposal so that we can actually, for example, get murals painted underneath the athletic stands. But as far as sustainability, again, we're looking towards compost piles. And then when it comes to maybe, I was talking with actually Captain Maggi about this last night in the library. So we already have some solar panels on campus, but as far as improving that and maybe reducing the amount that we're paying for electricity, that could help with the student activity fee and reducing that. Do you have anything to say?
And as far as improvements from the Vice President of Operations, it's more of an internal kind of thing in terms of communication within the Senate. So in that case, one of the more important things would be, oh, did I turn this off? In that case, one of the more important things would be having an objective, not subjective type of manner in terms of dealing with internal relations. I'm a person that always welcomes constructive criticism. If people challenge my ideas, I totally welcome it, but I'd always want someone else to understand that, you have to understand that if I challenge your ideas, it's never personal. Everything is always within the meeting. Not that we've ever had problems in the past, but I want to invite people in the future to look out and understand, you could say whatever you want, and we
Okay,
respect it.
sorry,
Yeah,
those are the 2 minutes. Anybody want to respond? Okay. Mark and Alex?
So our main leadership experience in the past has been from being on the executive board of the STUD. So being a member of the STUD, you do build a lot of the essential relationships that you do need going forward, being the official voice of the student body, whether it's working with administration, working with clubs, trying to get the full picture of the story in order to make an informed decision. That's what we do with the STUD, and that should be done of anybody who's going to serve an elected position, especially as president and vice president of operations. In addition, our connections, maybe it's so to speak, experience working with individuals who are not as involved on campus. With that, it makes us more in touch with the average student. The student who maybe is not in 10 different clubs and is a leader in all of them, but maybe what the student who's in maybe 0 or 1 clubs wants and their desire going forward and what they want from the SGA and how to improve their Stevens experience.
Speaking from my own experience, like Mark mentioned, I am on the executive board for the STUD, but I also serve as Secretary of College Republicans and as the president of Martial Arts Club. With me founding that organization, I've had to work with administration time and time again in order to achieve my goals and work with my relationships to get to that point. My leadership experience in all of these organizations has allowed me to meet a wide variety of people, ranging from the Board of Trustees down to the people in student life, obviously down to the students themselves, the people that help me build my clubs and actually do what I want to do, because I couldn't do anything by myself. And I think any good leader recognizes that your work isn't alone. You need a team behind you to do that. And my leadership experience has really given me that kind of an opportunity.
Any responses? All right, move on to our third ticket.
So for here, good. So my freshman year when I came in, I didn't want to get involved in a lot. I was a little nervous about the workload. I'm sure like everybody else was. But in high school, I had 4 years of experience on the SGA, and my freshman year I came in and I really wanted to get involved. I unfortunately did not. I regret it now. But I met a lot of people my freshman year. I got all people all over involved in all sorts of stuff. So I really have a good gist of what's going on campus. But our skills in general, and I say ours because a lot of it is Ryan. He has been on the cabinet, and he is my backbone, and we're a team, but he brings a lot of experience with being here for 3 years and being so involved in the SGA, and I'll let him talk for now.
Yeah, so what I would like to say, so what I would like to say is just that I think Jason really has a lot of energy and drive, and that's why I was willing to run as his VPO. And I think coming in, my experience really helps to be a VPO in that you have to serve with a lot of different committees within the SGA. Just to kind of list some of the things that I've been involved with. I was a senator. I'm currently on the cabinet. In the SGA, I've been involved with the Budget Committee, Academic and Curriculum Advancement Committee. I interact with underclassmen as well regularly as a PL and as a part of Society of Automotive Engineers. I'm in the Greek community, so I have friends there. I've run clubs. I'm experienced with club sports. I've interacted with students before they get to Stevens as a pre-college RA. And even being a legacy, I see what alumni look at Stevens as 10, 20 years from now. So I think my biggest asset being that I have my fingers in all these areas. I can really oversee a lot of the operations of a lot of different committees within the SGA and provide support.
Thank you. Any responses? Yes, John.
I was going to say, Jason, I didn't know you were in the SGA in high school, but I was going to say, with that experience, what was one difference that you noticed here at Stevens, and then is there anything that you were looking to capitalize on, or like anything that you saw from the difference that you could then work with?
Yeah. Right? Okay, that would be weird. So my SGA was like, in high school, SGA kind of runs everything. So we had our hand in, prom, Science Olympiad, Model UN. You guys know all the clubs that were in high school. But so we had our hand in all that, and it was just a nice experience to know what everybody was doing on campus. And bringing that to Stevens, it would be really nice to be a good role model and to set the standard for every other club and organization for students to get involved and really partake.
Okay, thank you.
Before we move on, are there any more response?
It's just a request from Anthony. Can you give like a visual indicator when we're about to be done? Okay, thank you.
All right.
Oh, okay. 20 or?
You could do 10.
Yeah, 10.
All right, this next question is for both the president and vice president candidates. What characteristics will you look for in your cabinet, and how will you be conducting interviews for the various positions? Mark and Alex?
So for us, we want a cabinet that's going to be able to assist with our goals and have a lot of experience working in their designated positions. Maybe not as a cabinet member, but maybe experience working with a lot of student works for VBSI. Maybe a lot of experience for the Vice President of Academics Academic Affairs position, and so on. So we want to take somebody who has a lot of experience. We want to gather a short list, which we have not done. We want to wait until if we win the election to do so. And we want to create almost, so to speak, like a search committee between myself, Alex, and the current position holder on cabinet, because the current position holder on the cabinet knows what's best, knows what's needed for the position, and their insight will be very valuable in a sense in choosing their successor and who it should be and what characteristics to look for.
Okay, thank you. Any responses? No? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so for our cabinet, we really stress organization. These cabinet positions are no joke. They come with a lot of work. That's unfortunate. Guys. But yeah, for sure, organization, they come with a lot of work, and they need to be motivated as well. They need to be able to handle the stress. They need to be able to be flexible and adapt to whatever situation's thrown at them. Part A. But they also need to be involved. They need to know the student body. They need to be getting every student's idea of what Stevens needs to improve.
Okay, thank you. Any responses? No? All right, you guys can just continue.
All right, so I was going to say, when it comes to the cabinet, we're looking at previous experience as one big virtue. Within the SGA, you could look at that in one sense and say, like, that could play to someone's strengths, but it doesn't mean that we would exclude anyone outside of the student government from being a part of the cabinet. I think one pivotal key concept would be to look at someone's major. For example, as someone in like quantitative finance or business, would they be interested in being the treasurer or the vice president of finance? or is someone the secretary, are they willing to type away in meetings and send out emails? Do they have like that Google Drive concept of staying organized? When it comes to the VPSI, Vice President of Student Interest, as you all may know, Dakota made that position into what it is. But essentially, that person has to be committed to time. Like it's almost like you have like no time, and someone has to understand that, but they have to be able to make sure that they're willing to deal with that and enjoy the role, because getting to know the students is really what the goal is in that position.
I'd like to add to that and say that I would be really interested in creating a strong personal connection with our future cabinet, because I've seen a correlation between either tight-knit groups of senators or tightly knit groups of cabinet members who hang out with each other often outside of SGA-related stuff. I think that is super important. I mean, this is down the road, but if we were to go through the presidency, then it would be really important for us to get a really solid connection with our cabinet during retreats and such.
If any tickets would like to respond, we have a minute. Okay, then we'll move on to our third question. This is, again, for both tickets, and we're going to start with Jason and Ryan. How would you describe the current relationship between the student body, the SGA Senate, and the SGA Cabinet, and what would you change, if anything?
So, seeing now, I guess 3 years worth, 2.5 years worth of different Senates, cabinets, students on campus, I think there's definitely starting to be more and more collaboration between the cabinet and Senate. It's a very integrated effort at this point, where senators are interested in cabinet initiatives, and the cabinet is really supportive of senators to help improve their kind of ability to accomplish what they're hoping to. But I think that there's still a disconnect between the SGA and the student body, in that students still feel that the SGA isn't accomplishing anything. And that's part of the reason that we're stressing efficiency within the SGA, because as we said, the SGA, as it oversees so many other organizations, should be a role model for those organizations, not a hindrance to those organizations. And I think just moving forward, we really need to push communication there, but then also make sure that the SGA is seen as an outlet and not an issue.
I just want to add one thing to that, is just that's our main platform, is accountability, efficiency, and communication. And we do not believe the communication between the SGA and the student body and the administration have been correct so far, and that's our biggest strive, to make everything as transparent and well communicated as possible.
Thank you. Is there any ticket that'd like to respond? 1 minute. John and Tim?
Yeah, so when John and I were campaigning, we met a wide variety of, especially freshmen, who either did not even know, they at least kind of knew what the SGA was, but they didn't even know like there's a presidential election coming up or anything like that. I'm sure they're tired of hearing about midterms. Hopefully you voted. But there are also plenty of people who are super involved, and it seemed to be a large correlation of people who were interested in the SGA and how close they were to managing finances for their respective clubs. I would say, though, that overall there has been a larger portion of students interested in SGA, what's going on in SGA. And I think that's definitely going to trickle down, because it's really hard to convince upperclassmen that SGA gets stuff done. And we've made great strides in showing the freshman class, because it's the easiest one to not influence, but it's the easiest one to let know about SGA-related things. It's definitely going to start trickling down. We're going to see a huge difference in the next few years. Of course, just because we made great progress, we shouldn't stop there. I think the freshman class is definitely the place to start for mending or not rebuilding, but building upon the current relations that we have between the student body and SGA Senate. So, yeah.
I was going to say, one thing I didn't really get to mention in the opening statement was that one of our pillars is striving to improve together. So we want this term to be a conversational one between the student body and us. Tim and I like to think we're familiar faces on campus already as it is, but as far as being able for anyone to come up with us, ask us about anything SGA related, we would then take your feedback, put it through the right chain of command, and get back to you in a timely manner. We know it's frustrating, and when you just feel like all you can do is complain, But what we would do is then take what you have. I don't want to repeat myself, but yeah, that's a sense of the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any responses?
Great. Okay. Mark and Alex?
So for us, the relationship between the SGA and the student body is the student body is very apathetic towards the SGA. We feel that's because the SGA is not necessarily pursuing the right things that the student body actually cares about. The student body simply sees them as a budget committee. And in order for that to change, the SGA needs to pursue initiatives that are going to affect everybody in the student body and give them the immediate results that they want to see at the Stevens campus.
I mean, in addition to that, obviously, I'm not a senator, and I take this from a different perspective. And from what I've seen, I have my connections to the Senate, but ordinary students don't necessarily have that connection and aren't necessarily having their concerns heard. Obviously, there's been new channels created recently to do that, like SGA speed dating, and we need to build on initiatives like that in order to keep moving progress forward. But we also need to improve the outreach and keep going forward.
And even within the SGA, we want to see the relationship between the cabinet and the Senate to almost see the cabinet serve as a resource to the Senate, like letting senators pursue their own initiatives, letting them focus on the committees that they're most happy to be on, because that'll make everybody productive in the long run. It'll allow us to focus on the entire student body and accomplish more as a whole.
Great. Thank you. Time for any tickets to respond? Great.
Okay. This next question is for the presidential candidate. John, what do you expect to be your more difficult transition into your position as president?
Okay, so let me think about this for a second. My most difficult transition. I guess one obvious thing is time management. The position is very time consuming. Knowing Tommy Daly 2 years ago and Lucas Gallo currently now, they always seem to be in meetings. And I know that being a mechanical engineer too, with the rigorous schedule coming up, I do see that as like a current issue, and I'm not going to try to hide that. But as far as just staying true to what I'm valuing, which is the student body first, that's going to be my motivation to just get extra work, stay up later if I have to at night. But again, just scheduling meetings. I know that's another improvement I have to make on too. Is I know a lot of administration here at Stevens currently, but as far as just refining my library, and if I hear an issue about health and wellness, like knowing which administrator to go to that for now. I know you go to the CAPS, you see Dr. Eric Rose, but maybe like 2 other people. Having that in my back pocket as well, I want to be able to just turn on a dime and say, I got to meet with these 3 people within the coming week. I like setting up meetings. I feel like I'm good at that now as far as setting up with emails, knowing where people are and following up with them. But I'd say as far as problems and adjusting them, it would be time management and then just refining my library so I can be the most efficient communicators I can be.
Thank you. Any responses before we move on to Mark? Yes, Ryan.
Historically, we've seen a lot of previous cabinet members drop other positions that they've held in order to make more time for their position. Do you see yourself doing this?
Yes. 100%. So as I was saying in the opening statement, however the election turns out, it's in favor for us. The presidency would be my sole responsibility. Obviously, I'm staying involved in Kappa Sigma, going to social events and hanging out. I'm not going to go under a rock or anything. But if anything, I'm going to devote more of that time towards being more open on campus than I already am. Again, going back to the whole conversational aspect, having this be my sole responsibility allows me to devote the majority of my day to it while leaving time for school, but then also just hanging out with you, the students, because when it comes to pursuing initiatives, that's really what's going to make sure we're doing the right things and keeping us in check.
Thank you. More response? Mark, take it away.
So the biggest challenge I see associated with the president position for myself is definitely dealing with relationship with administration. For me, I have a very cut and dry, I don't care, I just want to get out of there and get what I want out of the situation. When you're in the position of president, you have to, sort of speak, play nice with them a little bit more. You can't just be like, okay, information, don't care what we do afterwards. You kind of have to look a little bit more of, okay, maybe I should be nice the first few times before dropping the big thing on them. And I see that being the biggest challenge for me moving forward, trying to change your perspective a little bit to be a bit more pleasant or nice in the beginning towards them, and just go forward from that and using that to build relationships before dropping the big bomb on them.
Great. Any responses? All right, Jason.
So I was talking to the previous president, or still current president, but soon to be, Lucas Gallo, and he gave me a lot of good advice about trying to establish trust early, and I would say that would be my biggest worry coming in. I know these administrations don't like to be told what to do. I know they think they have all the answers, but coming in with a lot of ideas and a lot of motivation and a lot of energy, it'd be very tough to demonstrate those ideas in a way that they would understand, and for the student body to really understand that, like, this is what our direction, this is where the student body wants to go, and for the administration to understand that.
Thank you, Jason. Before we move on, any last? Wonderful. So our next question is going to be directed to Vice President of Operation candidates, starting with Alex. What about the internal structure of the SGA are you looking to improve as VPO?
Obviously, I'm not a senator, but I have been attending Senate meetings as of recent, and I've seen the way that the SGA has been operating, and in my opinion, it's highly inefficient. One of my main clubs in high school was the Technology Student Association. Being part of that club, if you ever were, you know that it's very by the book with Robert's rules, so I know Robert's rules fairly well, and the SGA isn't completely complying with Robert's rules, and that's some step that we need to take. In addition, a lot of ideas are being brought up in front of the full Senate rather than individual committees. If ideas are brought in front of individual committees and fleshed out there, it's going to save an enormous amount of time before the full Senate, because the meeting was scheduled last Sunday to go until 9 o'clock. I believe we were here until 10 or 10:30 at night, still discussing issues. There's a lot of ways that we can improve efficiency within the SGA and get more done if we can follow Robert's Rules of Order and get things done in committee rather than before the full Senate.
Okay, thank you. Any responses? All right, Ryan?
So as some of you may have seen this past weekend, we had some of the impeachment process going through. I think this is a big problem that we have. I think that it's good that we established a process, but I think the way the process currently stands is not the correct one. I think moving forward, we need to establish more guidelines for exactly how that'll happen. So that's a change that I want to make. Additionally, I want to lower some of the requirements as a part of the Oversight Committee. I think currently as it stands, senators should be focused solely on their initiatives and improving the school rather than, essentially being email robots at this point. I think the PR committee has a lot of very talented graphic artists that, are really good at crafting notes that can be distributed to the student body. And I think by transitioning that over to PR, that'll free up senators to focus more on the objectives they're pursuing. And additionally, I think Senate meetings should stay Senate meetings. And what I mean by that is consistently this semester, Senate meetings have been 2 hours long. And a good chunk of that ends up being dedicated to just reports, a lot of that being from the cabinet. And I think that's great that the cabinet is pursuing a lot of initiatives, but the Senate meeting is the Senate meeting. It's not the cabinet meeting. And I think moving forward, I just want to focus that the Senate meeting is for the senators so that they can make their accomplishments.
Okay. Any responses? All right.
Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd like to agree with Ryan there 100%. That is a really good point. It's a Senate meeting. It's for the Senate. And while I do think that it is great to hear about what the cabinet has to report on their reports, I do believe in rewarding people who work so hard, basically as a volunteer job, to show off what they've accomplished. There are definitely timing constraints that we can maybe more closely adhere to reduce, these 2-hour, 3-hour meetings. That's definitely something to look into. As opposed to the current VPO's job and how Rami has been doing it, I would like to think that it's a lot like IT. If you don't hear a lot about it, then it's probably going pretty well. in terms of like not many problems are going on in the background. It's pretty obvious when something goes wrong. But I would like to say that in terms of communication, even though nothing necessarily is going wrong, that doesn't mean that things can't be better. And I'd like to explain what I mean by better. There have been certain situations, and I've been culprit myself, where things get passed around in the Senate and it gets stuck on bottlenecks. I was talking about bottlenecks with the administration before, but there have been bottlenecks between senators and committees and subcommittees and such. So maybe to I don't know, drop the hammer and say like, hey, like you have to be more responsive. Like you have to, even though you're volunteering, you have to like not let these people like just sit there waiting. Like, okay, like are you gonna respond or what? Again, I'm a culprit with that too. I think everyone has been a culprit with that every once in a while. But that is definitely something that we need to like enact, like as a Senate as a whole, in order to make some more changes.
Great. Thank you.
Any responses? Yes.
This is just the question. Can we go over the order again, where we're at, like as far as who goes first, second, third?
Yes. So the next question will be towards Jason and Ryan. Then you and Tim would answer, and then Mark and Alex will answer third. So basically, we're going in a circle. Okay. Next question is to both the president and the vice president candidates. Jason and Ryan, what current SGA initiatives are you prepared to carry on the most? Which do you think could be let go?
So me and Ryan have been going through our laundry list of initiatives, and we're definitely moving a lot around, cutting things, adding things, putting new things in place. Again, talking with Lucas a lot, we would like to see the past president's initiatives carried through. There's no reason for them to be dropped. We would like to see those a lot completed, as well as the new ones that we have over here. You can talk about this.
So we touched on this a little bit before, but the main ones being, establishing better connection between the actual students, not just the SGA and the administration, pushing for clarity with the school spending, improving classes while maintaining academic integrity, improving campus pride, increasing the efficiency of the SGA, and the other one being more collaboration between professors and students. So those are our main goals that we're focused on. But as Jason said, I think that if anything is going to be dropped, it's something that hasn't been started. I think anything that is currently being undertaken and is already in the process should be seen through, and that'll ensure that we accomplish as much as we can.
Great. Thank you. Would anybody like some time to respond real quick before we move on to the next ticket? Wonderful. John and Tim?
I was going to say, so one bank that I'm always going to be able to pull from is my experience in the Campus Life Committee. I know I keep preaching on that. But I know, like, when it comes to sustainability, that's really a big thing that's coming to campus. Throughout the semester, I've been in contact with the nationwide organization Environment America. Lucas Gallo, he put me into contact with him, and I've reached out to different student organizations such as SEEPS, the Stevens Environmental Engineering Professional Society, and Urban Agriculture. So we've been like delegating like tasks that they could take on, but also Jake Tabor, the name of the representative, he was saying how there's efforts all across the nation to work towards 100% sustainability on college campuses. And I think that is, it's really crazy to think about because Stevens does run a lot on fossil fuels. I've talked a lot about with Angelo Falabella and Dean Nielsen about this. But as far as making moves towards that, having a full like 2 semesters, that would be like a very big project to take on, maybe something to be delegated to the next president after that. But that would not only look good on us, but it's just moving Stevens forward with the society as it is today. Tim?
100%. One of the most not interesting. One of the most important initiatives that I think all of the tickets I've been thinking about is 100% mental health. We've made great strides in the CAPS program. Alina Tudor has talked about the possibility of creating new calendar scheduling programs. So like if someone doesn't show up, that slot isn't just wasted. Like you can come in for a quick, emergency meeting, say like, oh wow, there is actually a slot not taken. Apparently there are a lot of slots wasted because people end up not showing up. Again, like we have made strides in mental health awareness and such, but that is something that we never have enough of. You know, anything that we could do to improve that is something that I would be interested in.
Okay, any responses? Okay, Mark and Alex.
So for us, we definitely believe that senators should pursue their initiatives that they're the most passionate about. However, the ones that we think would be best to pursue are the ones that we can see an immediate impact, an immediate change on campus, say within a semester. Usually these type of changes are the ones that administration is going to be more willing to work towards. There are going to be ones that's like, that's not a bad idea without seeing a lot of convincing. It'll help build the relationship with administration, and it'll let everybody see, oh, the SGA did something on campus and it affects me on a daily basis, which is an important thing going forward, whether it's building the image of the SGA or even just progressing the student experience as a whole, no matter the category. For us, that focuses, again, based upon our 3 pillars that we mentioned, living, learning, and social. And we have immediate impact initiatives within all of those fields.
In addition to that, we're also looking to do a little bit of restructuring with the individual committees too. If you're placed on a committee that you're really not passionate about, you're not going to do the work. And this was really evidenced last year when we saw multiple committees basically falling apart by the end of the year. The PR committee was basically just headed up by Alina, doing a great job. The ACA committee was falling apart with the chair of that committee resigning. So we need to get to a point where everybody's doing what they want to do, not necessarily what they're told to do by the SGA.
Okay, thank you. Any responses?
Yeah, I would like to respond.
Jason and then John.
Oh, yeah. Mark, do you have any just examples of some immediate impact that would immediate impact initiatives?
Yeah, so one of our big things is this is where a lot of our social stuff comes from. So under that pillar, we know that there's some students in the co-op program wish to participate with senior weeks during their 4th year as opposed to 5th, because that's where a lot of their students come from. We want to make that change so it can be impacted for the upcoming senior week coming up. Additionally, we'd want it so that if you're in the 4+1 program, you can opt to pay the student activity fee your 5th year and still participate in RSO activities. These are just 2 really quick, should be tweak of a button almost, and solve the issue.
John?
One thing when it does come to as far as the committee seeming to fall apart, I know one place that is always worked on every year is at the Senate retreat. It is a very collaborative environment. I've been to them 2 times now. But as far as I agree with you, finding what you're passionate in definitely does help figure out what you want to do with the committee and make it enjoyable. But as of now in the Senate, hi. But yeah, so that has been something that's been worked on. People have been voicing which committee they want to join, and then also why and what they plan on doing. So that has been addressed, and it is in the works. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm just going to ask a follow-up question to the previous question I asked. Which current SGA initiatives do you think could be let go? So I'm going to take it back to Jason and Ryan.
And we'll continue through the same cycle. So Jason and Ryan.
Okay, so sorry, gotta look through the game plan,
I'd also like to remind the tickets that you don't need to use these 2 minutes for each question if you don't wish.
So for some initiatives that could be let go, these would be some of the smaller ones that aren't required, but definitely would help Stevens, but maybe would take a little bit too long and shouldn't be our main focus. Some of these would be the major changes that we have plans for Stevens, but I would need to be the actual president of Stevens to do some of these things. These would include making more residential living areas on Stevens, just so we could have more students. Another one would be putting in more rooms, so there's never a room activity. And another one would be making more lobby areas for students to hang out. Again, these would be nice for Stevens, but they're not really required. Most of our things should be specific to academics, and I think that's where we should really shine.
I think also this pertains a lot specifically to some of the freshman initiatives we've seen coming in so far. being on the oversight committee, I do see the monthly updates coming from these senators. And I think some of them, while they are thinking on a very big scale, and I really like to see how eager they are, I think some of them just aren't feasible. The scale is to the point where I don't think Barton could accomplish this if he wanted to. So I think, yeah, just thinking in a space where we can actually accomplish something ourselves and see it through.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Sorry, I'm running into like a little last minute mind blank. So when it does come to finding out what to let go, my immediate response to this was nothing. None of our initiatives should be let go because the whole reason we're pursuing initiatives is because we do feel they have an impact. Anything that is brought up and doesn't really seem feasible to the Senate should be screened in the committees. So I know me, like I'm comfortable with saying to someone in a campus life committee meeting, I honestly don't see that as tangible. Like from my experience, I know Dean Nielsen, he talks a lot about resources and money. For example, a player from the volleyball team reached out to me about getting a second sand volleyball court on campus, and I thought that was a cool idea. But I said, it may not be 100% possible. And with all the construction going on and learning about the limits on our budget and green space, on campus, having those factors and limits in mind really establishes your foundation as a leader and being able to say, to your committee members what is feasible and what isn't. And then when it comes to the oversight committee too, Ryan, I know you're the speaker. So as the speaker, you're the head of the oversight committee. And then just being able to communicate with the senators as in the oversight emails and just saying, hey, as we now see, that doesn't really look like something that's tangible. So getting the word out early, I think that's something that we have to work on as a Senate right now.
Okay. Time for response. Mark and Alex?
So the way that we see it, the majority of the initiatives that the SGA is currently pursuing are good initiatives that we need to keep moving forward. However, there has been the big one that's been pushed by trying to get an undergraduate on the Board of Trustees. And from my experience, I can basically flat out say it needs to be dropped because it's not going to happen. It's not feasible. I've met with multiple Board of Trustees people, including the current chair of the board, Steve Boswell, in which he explicitly told me undergrads are not going to be on the board due to a conflict of interest. It's not because they don't want them there. It's due to a conflict of interest. They discuss private matters about the school that students don't realize it, but they see in their everyday lives. So we don't want somebody accidentally spilling out some information because they do have to sign non-disclosure agreements every single time they go to a meeting. And with that said, we should keep pursuing an undergraduate liaison to the board that might be able to speak on behalf of the students. That's definitely something that's extremely feasible and that the board's actually very excited about pursuing. They want to hear from the undergraduate student body because they want to work to improve the undergraduate student body so we can work in conjunction with that. But the goal is essentially going to be met halfway with that undergraduate liaison.
Okay. Thank you. Before we move on to the next question, are there any responses? Great. So we're going to start with John. This is a question for presidents. How will your leadership style differ from that of the current president, Lucas Gallo?
Let me take a second to think about this. No, I mean, that is a good point. It's you don't have to be a totally different person from what the person's doing now. I think Lucas is a great leader as it is. But as far as differing from what he's doing now, I don't know. It's a tough question because I'm even thinking back to the president before him, Tommy Daly. They were both very well outspoken people. It was one of their strengths, and I see that I can embody that as well. I don't know. I'll think of something and I'll come up with a response, but yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mark?
So I've observed the SGA from the outside for practically the last entire academic year, just seeing like what it is, what the student body perspective is. And to be honest, over the past semester, I've really started to develop and appreciate Lucas's leadership of the SGA. The one thing that I just think would be like a little bit better of an improvement would just be to be a little bit more direct when talking with administration, talking with individuals, and just trying to like be like, okay, you still have to play nice, but still be a little bit more direct with what your end goal point is moving forward.
Thank you. Jason?
I would differ from Lucas in that I would be almost less flexible. Sometimes his flexibility is almost a double-edged sword. As good as he is as attending to the student body need, some initiatives have not been met, and these initiatives will be delegated to the next president, which is not a problem, but I would like to see every initiative that I start get finished. Also, talking with Lucas, he said he didn't believe he pushed enough. Of course, I would like to push as hard as I can and really let the administration know how the student body feels.
Thank you. Would any tickets like to take time to respond? John?
I was going to say, I guess one thing that maybe Lucas hasn't done yet, as far as like meeting up with administration is very important when it comes to tackling initiatives, but I know he reaches out to the Senate all the time about like reaching out for coffee, just hanging out in his free time. I think it'd be beneficial to meet up with the administration in free time. I know it may sound weird at first, but as far as establishing that personal relationship, letting them know you're a person too, and having them understand that you know they're busy, that can go a long way when it comes to scheduling a meeting. You've heard the expression when you're applying for a job, people hire people. So as far as letting the administration know that in this spot of authority as potential president and vice president of operations, we're not here as a leech to just get information out of you and work on initiatives, but we're here to get to know you and work with you to make this school a better place for all students. Thank you.
All right. Alex?
Just to kind of clarify, because I got a little bit lost, because before you said you want to continue Lucas's current goals, Rami's current goals, but at the same time, it seemed like you kind of said you wanted to back off on some of them. So I'm like wondering if you just give me a little bit of clarity there.
No, I've said that I wouldn't want to change my initiatives as quickly, as Lucas does sometimes, where some initiatives are started and then never finished. I would finish them and then start a new one.
Great. Thank you. This question is for both the president and the vice president candidates. Mark and Alex, what are your plans to address the current student mental health situation?
So one of the great things that did happen over the past semester, or is going to be happening very soon, is hiring the wellness educator to trying to like be that outreach, be that bridge with the student body with all the topics on mental health. Like a lot of college students struggle with mental health, and they're like really not public about it. And we hope that working directly with the wellness educator in the future, they'll be able to bridge that gap between the everyday student and that maybe their mental health issues aren't that abnormal, and they can work with counseling such as CAPS. With CAPS, we understand it is a little bit intimidating. A lot of college students do struggle with anxiety, and trying to make that initial phone call or going there in person can be a little tough, especially when you're told you have to wait 2-3 weeks or something along those lines to get an appointment at times. We want to make it easier. We definitely want to put a lot of resources into the aforementioned, I know other candidates did, about the online scheduling for CAPS, as well as trying to push for more psychologists to be hired in CAPS so that everybody can be seen when they're needed.
And I mean, in addition to that, I've had a lot of experience intercollaborating with clubs in the past, and I think Active Minds, as it stands, is a great organization pursuing great initiatives, and the SGA needs to be a partner with Active Minds moving forward, because mental health is a serious issue. We've unfortunately seen the repercussions here on campus, and I don't want to ever see that happen again. I saw so many people hurt, and we need to do the best that we possibly can to keep moving forward with mental health initiatives.
Okay. Any responses? Jason and Ryan?
Yeah, I would also really stress the availability. I was sick over the weekend, like 2 weeks ago, and I had to wait till 9 o'clock to call in and say, what's going on with this? I need an excuse. I can't go to class. I'm extremely sick. And it was just like a little upsetting that I had to wait 3-4 hours before I could actually call in and say, I can't make it to class, or what do I do, or even that. So just having availability, a doctor on call, something where the students, no matter what case scenario, we'll have somebody in our corner that can take care of us.
Just to add on to that, I think we need to partially foster a better environment at Stevens. So I think establishing early connections just among students as a whole and creating the right environment that kind of normalizes mental health on campus so that students feel comfortable talking about it will help improve the situation. I've kind of seen as a peer leader that we're starting to work more towards this, but I think really encouraging freshmen early on to talk about situations and feel comfortable will definitely be an improvement. And I think additionally, just showing the administration how bad certain situations are is very important. Lucas has mentioned that when we did the sleep survey, a huge portion of students at Stevens are getting less than 5 hours of sleep a night, which is kind of ridiculous. And I think that just shows that students are very stressed, which definitely doesn't help. And the administration's response to that was kind of, well, only a couple hundred students responded to this. We have thousands of undergrads, so come back with more responses and we'll reevaluate that, which I think is completely the wrong tactic to take, and that's something we need to change.
Are there any responses before we move on to the last ticket? Jonathan?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to build off what Ryan said about the orientation process, about right when freshmen come into Stevens. It's really important to stress the fact about any kind of inclusivity for freshmen during the orientation process. So far, it's been extremely welcoming. The orientation or peer leaders have been selected very carefully, and they're really good at their job. But if you look back and you think about all the friends that you've made, most of your best friends, there's a good chance that you've met them during the first week or two during orientation. Some people are shy when they come to college, so they don't really have the opportunity to make those lasting friendships that start in the beginning. Anything that can improve the inclusivity, like, I don't know, make orientation activities more inclusive, making sure that people are involved early on. Sometimes you have to get people going a little bit before they can actually make the rest. Also, this is a super specific initiative, but I would like to talk about the class scheduling process. That has created a huge amount of anxiety, especially in the junior class, where a lot of us don't understand when certain people can vote and when they priority and when they don't. Apparently, there's things regarding like how many credits you have, like you're regarded as a senior. People shouldn't be going on an anxiety trip weeks before finals when that's when they should be going on the anxiety trip. You know, this is like not fair to students to be putting them through this hell. I already know a few friends that cannot get into just about half of their classes that are required next semester. This is not helpful for mental health, so we need to do something about that.
One small thing, again, pulling from the Campus Life Committee, I like that it's not just a committee for tangible things, but also things like mental health. One of the committee members, Matthew Cunningham, give the man credit to where it's due, he was talking about another school, I forget which, but he was saying treating alcohol violations with a required trip to the CAPS or like a psychological center.
Okay, sorry, that's all the time.
Are there any responses we have really quick before we move on?
I would just like to ask Tim, what would your recommendation be to solve the scheduling?
Yes. Yes. So there's this term that's used in a wide array of subjects, but it's called power creep. And basically the way it works is that by giving more and more groups of people priority in class scheduling, the shine, it loses its luster. You know, by the time that, like, let's say half the student population gets priority, no longer is it a benefit for that small percentage, which is now the large percentage, but now half the students can get into class and half the other students can't. Even SGA does have priority scheduling. I'm not saying that should be removed at all. But I do think that SGA, in order for it to be fair, should be considered in terms of priority scheduling. Another thing is that priority scheduling only really helps like the freshman, sophomore class. It helps them a lot more than the junior and senior class. So there needs to be some sort of way to increase the viability, you know. Oh, yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Really quickly, I want to thank everybody in the audience who's still here for sitting with us and everyone who's still watching for being here. We do have one more planned question for all the tickets, and then we are going to open it up to people from the audience if they have questions as well. So our final question from our papers, we're going to start with the third ticket on our right, Jason and Ryan, is what makes the other candidates fit for the role that you're all vying for?
This is for both of us?
Yes, for both of you, that's correct.
I'll start off with table 1, I guess. So both candidates are obviously experienced in the SGA. They know how the system works. They obviously have all their initiatives, and I believe they would do a good job. Go to table 2. Mark and Alex also have experience. They would do a good job. Every candidate would be able to do the presidential job. That's why they ran, right? They believe they would do a good job in the position. It's where we would differ that would be the direction that Stevens goes in. A year is a long time, and all 3 candidates would get their initiatives done. All 3 would be happy at the end of their term, but it's just what direction would Stevens go in?
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, I'll add a little to that. I mean, I've known John, Tim, and Mark since we were all freshmen, and Murtaugh since last year when he was a freshman, and like everybody that's sitting before you right now definitely knows what. Never mind. Everyone that's sitting here definitely knows what they're doing. Their experience has set them up and prepared them for this position, and I think they all bring unique perspectives in that, you know, John and Tim have experience with SGA. Murtaugh has a lot of experience with the Board of Trustees. Mark has a lot of experience with, you know, student and other organizations. And I think no matter which ticket you're interested in, we're all going to bring something to the table.
Thank you. Any response before we move on? Okay, John and Tim?
Yeah, I'd like to start with Jason, actually. As Ryan said, you do have a lot of drive, but I would also add the fact that you are technically the only sophomore candidate tonight, and I think that could bring a really interesting perspective to the field, because I don't exactly remember the last time that a sophomore has been elected president. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. Oh, now. 3 years ago. Oh, 3 years ago. Oh, thank you. There you go, you know. Yeah, and then I would say also Ryan has definitely taken a lot of initiative as speaker, and he really, in doing so, he really seeks out making a more efficient and effective Senate. Really appreciate that. Murtaugh and Mark Krupinski, they, I think, have a really interesting outlook on the SGA, because they've had an outsider's view. And now that Mark is also a senator, he has both worlds. So he definitely has a lot under his belt in understanding how things work and how it looks like things work. So I think that's pretty interesting.
I'd say, Jason, you're very well spoken. I know within the first few weeks of the semester, you're stirring up storms with conversations and things like that. And it was great to see. You know, I'd never seen your face before, and then everyone's asking you questions. So I think that's one of your strengths. I think administrators would really like that and know that you're willing to follow up, and you're going to be someone that's going to work with them and not just come in, come out, come in, come out. Mark, I know you could talk about academic affairs all day. You're so invested in the position. I know you work with administrators, teachers. You've been working with Mariana a lot lately, and I think that is just your bread and butter. So when it comes to academics, I think doing that for the school is one of your strengths.
Okay. Anyone would like to respond before we move on to Mark and Alex? Take it away.
So I'm going to start with Jason and Ryan again. So I think the great thing about their ticket is that they have so much fire behind them. They have so much passion and trying to find new ideas and just seeing what sticks. And I think that's just such a great thing going forward, just trying to pursue everything and see what's going to work best for everybody, which I've even seen from Jason, brand new senator, and here you are running, come from who knows where, and here you are out here trying to see what sticks, make sure that you can push your fiery initiatives forward. With John and Tim's ticket, I see that they have a lot of experience working within the SGA. They have a good understanding about how everything works. That they've tried a lot of stuff and know, okay, this is what the student body responds to well. This is what they don't necessarily respond to well from an SGA perspective. And I think it's great that they're able to provide the guidance even going forward for all the senators, having been in their shoes for so long.
I mean, I just kind of want to echo what Mark said, and I guess what all of you said at the same time. Everyone up here is so super qualified, and I don't think I could speak highly enough of any of these people. You heard all of their accomplishments and everything that they've done on campus, and it's essentially unmatched in a lot of other places. Obviously, you guys bring a whole lot of experience coming from the SGA from that perspective, and at the same time, you guys have a really nice mix of someone who wasn't as involved but now really has that drive and that passion to get involved, while having someone who's been in and seen all the dirty work and can get their hands into everything right away. So I think both tickets are great. Yeah.
Okay. Before we turn it over to the audience, are there any final responses to this question? All right, so we're now going to take questions from the audience. Our microphone is over there behind SIT TV's base station. Not everybody at once, but if you'd like to start forming a neat line behind the mic to ask your questions, you certainly may. And again, in terms of answering the questions, we're going to start with you and then move through the tickets. Again, 2 minutes for response each.
1 minute.
1 minute, I'm very sorry, 1 minute for response each.
Will both be able to respond? Or is it
Say that again?
Will we both be able to respond?
Hello.
Or are they going to like say
It's
this
not
is for?
specific, or it could be specific.
It could be,
It could
depends
be
on
sp-
them.
Okay, so it's up to them. Cool.
Live audience, who knows? Yeah, and there is no response to each other's answers.
Okay. First question, take it away.
All right, this question is for everybody. What is your biggest concern about assuming the position that you are running for?
So again, when it comes to the position, so when it comes to the position, I'd say one of the concerns, again, is time commitment. It would be like nothing I've ever had before as far as leadership experience goes on campus, but it's something that I'm willing to take on as far as like growing as a person, knowing that it's going to be difficult. And again, knowing that this is college and it's a time to like, try things. Not to say that this is like an experimental position, but as far as addressing that time commitment, I know that's an issue.
Lucas and Rami have both told me that one of the big bottlenecks is the fact that staff and administration don't get back to us. So that is something that is not exactly within our control directly, but it's something that we can incentivize using like deliverables and expectations with the administration. So that's something that I would like to do to reduce that concern.
Mark and Al?
Yeah, so like I clarified before, it is trying to work very well with administration. That's what I see the biggest concern is for myself if I was elected SGA president. So everything that the SGA does essentially has to pass through administration in one way or another. So I see that as almost like it can slow down the progress a lot, and you have to play nice with them. And I see that being one of the biggest concerns going forward for the position.
For me, obviously, as I've echoed time and time again tonight, I'm not part of the SGA. I haven't really been a part of the SGA unless you consider Student Faculty Alliance part of it, which it is a committee, so yes, but not as a senator. So I really have to work to build relationships with all the senators, which I mean I've already begun on that because I do know so many, but I'm going to have to continue that because obviously you get the best results when you have the best relationships with people.
For me, like I said earlier, establishing that early trust so we can be productive for our whole year. Coming in, meeting the faculty, and just hitting the ground running and not wasting any time of, do I trust this kid? Does he know what he's talking about? Just hitting the ground running and really just working to benefit Stevens in general.
Other tickets have mentioned, just concerns with the faculty. I think if anything, that's one thing that doesn't concern me, being in the financial sphere as a QF, I get to see a lot of what it's like to work with bureaucratic organizations. So that's not a concern of mine, but I'd say probably having to make the sacrifices for the position. I'm prepared to let go of some of the other things that I'm involved in, but as you all heard from my intro from Regan, there's plenty of stuff that I'm involved in that I would be willing to drop for the position.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thanks.
So this question is directed towards the presidential candidates. A big part of being president is being able to work well with others, especially within the SGA and even with those running against you. How are your relationships with the others in the SGA, and how do you plan on working with them after the election?
Okay, thank you. Mark?
So going forward, I've been working to build relationships with more senators. I've just been elected, as I've stated, this semester, so I didn't have the chance to develop, so to speak, the personal relationships yet, but I see that being enhanced by working forward with people on the committee or even outside of the committee on non-committee initiatives. Even if I wasn't elected president, I'd still want to pursue all the initiatives that I mentioned before in my opening statement. And I know that that's going to be through building a lot of relationship with senators, whether I'm in the position or not, and just keep going forward that way.
Thank you. Jason?
I as well as am also new, and just coming in, I'm a people's person. I love to talk. I love to meet anybody and anybody. The SGA retreat was really fun. We got a lot of laughs out of that with the icebreakers, but just stuff like that, carrying out those initiatives, as well as just making a bond. Apparently going to a cabinet meeting as a senator was not very well heard of. I was one of the only people that went to a cabinet meeting, and I got all those opinions as well, and I highly encourage senators to come to cabinet meetings. I think there's no problem with them, I guess, dropping in and just saying from a more close perspective of what's going on. Do you think this is a good initiative? Is it possible? Should I put my energy into it?
And then to address my relationships within the Senate, being here since freshman year, now 2.5 years, I feel I've come to know everyone very well at this point. I know who they are as a person, but also like what they're involved in within the Senate. So if someone brings up an issue outside of the Senate and they says, I want this, to be looked at, I could give you like the names of 2 or 3 people that would, be willing and be good at, taking on an initiative. As far as like knowing what committees people are in and the work that they've been doing, I always take the time to just check in with others, see what is going on in the committees. I'll go through the slides maybe like a second time after a Senate meeting just to see if there's anything I missed. But also outside of the Senate and outside of committees, knowing what people are involved in on campus otherwise, just seeing, how they're, like say they're in like a fraternity or a sorority and then they have an event going on, seeing how like that could tailor into something the SGA is willing to accomplish. So I feel like, like Jason, I'd like to say I'm a very people-oriented person. I love to talk, and the more I learn about people, the more I can delegate and make the most progress. Sorry, I'm sorry. I was not.
Thank you. All right, next question, please.
When looking at a candidate, it very often their focus is their what of their platform. But I think what really makes a candidate and what's really important about them is the why. So could everyone up there, could you describe the why? Is there some sort of experience or a relationship that you've had which really inspired you to go forward with your candidacy?
Yeah, Jason and Ryan.
For me, I was talking to Lucas, and he said it's a selfless role. You work for all the people in front of you. And I don't know, I took that to heart, and I do love making people happy. Why I'm working as hard as I'm working to make the school a better place, who knows? But I like to see Stevens grow in general. There's no reason that leaving Stevens, I shouldn't leave it a better place. And I've been taught that since day one, and I always believe that, leave something better than when you came.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is just that, if anything, I guess I care too much about this school. Part of the reason that I'm so involved on campus is because I'm interested in so many areas, but, I think this role will really allow me to kind of pursue as much as I can.
John and Tim?
So, you are students, we are students. When it comes down to it, we want to make sure that everyone here, all of the students, have the best experience possible, the most enjoyable experience possible. And as long as we're here, hopefully after I'm an alumni, I support the school. I really do want to make this a really great place. It does have its problems. I don't think anyone can deny that. But we're all students, and you're my friends. I want to make it better for you. So, yeah, I don't have much else to say about that.
I love the idea of leaving it a better place than I found it. Stevens being so, I don't want to preach on that too much more. But as far as having the position and having the authority and the power to get things done, where a lot of people feel like they're too busy and they don't have the time to work towards something, I feel like that's something that I would then have the push for.
And that's time, John. Sorry.
This is fast.
And for our third ticket?
I mean, I feel like I'm echoing a lot of the same sentiments. Everything that I've done before this year, I didn't even consider running for this position. Everything that I did, all the interviews that I did, all the work through the Stute that I did, through the Martial Arts Club, every single thing that I've done here so far was to make Stevens a better place. Everybody should leave college saying, wow, I want to go back to where I was, you know, however many years ago. Whether you're 90 years old or you just graduated. That's the kind of feeling I want people to leave Stevens with, and that's clearly not what's going on right now. Serious work needs to be done to get in there and to change the situation so everybody is leaving here with that same exact attitude, wow, I want to go back.
And to add, it's a lot of just, instead of relying on the indirect commenting situation, for us, we wanted to take a direct role. We saw that, okay, sitting on the sidelines is enough. We need to take a direct role in the leadership of the student body to pursue what's needed.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Our next question.
Hey everyone. So I'm Ryan, and one of our senators who could not be here tonight, Mr. Montalvo, had a question. He wanted someone to ask for him, so I will. So, and this is for everyone. If you were part of a salad, what ingredient would you be?
Who do we start with? I've lost track. I believe we start with John and Tim. Okay.
Everyone's walking out.
No. Wow, this is the best part. Like, come on, guys. Man. So, I'm not really a salad guy, but I do think that other than the greens, the best part of salad is definitely the crouton. Like, you get a nice crunch out of it, you know. But
clap for the crouton.
And I'd like to add to that. I'm just building an analogy on the spot. The crouton. Oh man, how do I do bread? Yeah, that's it. No, yeah, crouton.
I guess you could say I'd like to be the dressing. I like to try to change things up when I can and make things more enjoyable. So translating that to the presidency, trying to make campus a better.
That's time, John.
Yikes.
Mark and Alex?
All right, I'm not going to lie. Before the debate, all of us were sitting there, like, remembering this question.
Yeah.
So I think I would definitely be the avocado. You know, it mashes up. It's a really unique ingredient, and it kind of, like, blends together. It's like it really takes the salad to a whole nother level.
For myself, and I mean, I say this for a couple of reasons. One, I am a bacon lover, so I'm going to say bacon. It's different. It's not something you normally get in a salad because you're not supposed to put something unhealthy in the salad. But it's different and it's good. It's something that you kind of need. You still need the fats from bacon, so it's kind of important.
Some powerhouse answers so far. I'm going to go with the non-standard route. I'm going to go with the banana peppers. Now, a lot of people don't go for the banana peppers, but you're missing out. I would establish the banana pepper, and I want you to really know that I'm there, you know? I want it to be that fire in your mouth, and you're like, maybe I'll lay off the banana peppers, but then you come back. You always come back for the banana peppers.
I'd like to say I'm the grilled chicken. My thought is, if the salad doesn't have any protein, is it really a salad? Kind of going off that, I feel like I have a lot of substance to my arguments and, some real meat to back it up. But, yeah, no, I'd have to go with the grilled chicken.
Thank you. And very quickly while I'm here, I just wanted to clarify, the SGA cabinet is not trying to get a student on the board of trustees. We are trying to get student representatives on their committees, and the Young Alumni trustees believe this is possible, and we're very optimistic about it. Thank you.
Can I respond to that? You're the moderator.
At the end, closing statement.
Yeah.
All right, Julian?
Hi, my name is Julian Hernandez. I served as a senator for the spring semester of last year, and I still stay involved in the Student Government Association as much as I can. Throughout my time being involved in the SGA, I have noticed a lack of involvement from students namely within the College of Arts and Letters. I was wondering if any of the candidates have given thought to engaging students in the College of Arts and Letters and really making changes on this campus to make them, A, feel more welcome and more valued as students of this university at an engineering school.
And we start with Mark and Alex.
So one of the things, I actually talked with Julian about this last week, and I didn't understand what a big problem it was for a lot of the Cal majors before I spoke to him. So currently for Cal majors, I know we specifically spoke about music tech, there is not really a way to build up your portfolio through a class. And there needs to be some sort of way. There's that class, it's called Professional Practices for Art Majors. So we want kind of like to implement something like that so they have like a resume that's built, a portfolio built, going forward towards their future career. We also want to make sure that the Career Center has great connections for students in the majoring in the Cal disciplines going forward so they are able to pursue their dream careers easily.
So I think the Cal department is something that's like really advantageous to have at Stevens. I think our Cal majors bring a lot to the table. And I think the most directly relatable experience that I could give is probably seeing how changes have progressed in the business school, being the one other newer school on campus. You know, I think that there's a lot of progress that we've made that can, you know, go directly towards improving the Cal department. And I think, you know, a lot of it is just, you know, improving those opportunities, but also listening to what they need. You know, if you talk to a Cal major, they'll tell you what the problems are. So I think if we you know, make a point to say that we want to hear their opinions, those opinions will, you know, be made apparent to us.
So one thing at the College of Arts and Letters, I'd like to attack the arts section specifically within like campus artwork. We're trying to currently work on that within the Campus Life Committee now, but as far as taking that to an administrative level, making it official in the sense where you could possibly get like forms students could fill out to have a part of campus to decorate, say, for the month. Working towards like modernize it, making it more like visually appealing. And then, that's something else. Oh yeah, so when it comes to like digital art, like visual, like motion pictures or like that just aren't like paintings or anything. We were thinking of utilizing the TVs around campus to display that. So whether it's going to be like in Pierce, in the academic buildings, in the lobbies, just so like that part of the College of Arts and Letters is shown to the students, because I feel like when students see that, it's one of the most visually appealing things that they can appreciate. So that would be one big initiative.
That would also help for their exposure, and I'm out of time. There you go.
What do you believe is the biggest issue at Stevens in the category of academics and campus organizations, and what do you believe is the right course of action in order to address them?
We start with you two.
Yeah, so I'll go quick. Another initiative that me and Ryan are going to hopefully undertake is reevaluating every class within the majors. I know being a software engineer, we have a lot of arguments about the classes that are specific to our major, and do they belong there, do they not? But we would definitely start there and see whatever comes about.
And then going off that, you know, one of my big focuses would be on interdisciplinary studies. So I think seeing now, you know, more majors coming to Stevens, and this is specifically a problem with the QF department because I have to, you know, work with the QF courses, the BizTech courses, the math courses, and computer science courses, and trying to get all the departments to communicate with each other just doesn't happen. And I think this becomes very apparent once you start taking senior design, and students don't have the ability to work with students from other majors.
Thank you.
So over the past year, Lucas has made strides in the development of including new modules, especially additions to the humanities courses. At least either if they're not already in, they're in the process of making through. And in those modules, there are things that are more useful to the students to like learn. It could be anything from like learning about shuttle services, you know, through like an actual like controlled academic like process. I know we have it for like alcohol EDU and stuff, so it'd be almost like that same platform, but it would be for everyday problems on campus. Yeah.
I see one issue that could be addressed is making sure advisors know what to tell their students when they're being brought questions. I know, like, I've reached out to some students, and they say, like, some of their semesters, like, don't mesh up with the classes that they're taking. So making sure, whether it's like a yearly refresher, making sure the advisors know what the best classes are that a student should take. They should.
And that's time.
Hi, my name is Joan, and this question.
Oh, sorry, hold
real
on.
quick, we have one more.
Oh my god, my bad.
So my main thing with academics going forward is a lot of people, when they go to Stevens, they want to work straight in industry. They have a career in mind, and academics at Stevens should directly focus on that. For us, that could rely on creating co-op programs for all the majors at Stevens, because that's a great way if students choose to get work experience going forward. We also would recommend that we also want them to utilize the faculty as resources in the future so that they know, okay, maybe they'll be able to provide me a connection to working, say, at my dream company, and be able to utilize those connections to pursue their career goals going forward and everything. We also want to make sure that classes have a good practical component to it, because most of the students here are engineers. A lot of stuff they are going to be doing is in practice, and we want to make sure that they're well equipped for industry going forward.
All right, so just so that everyone is aware, we're going to cut the line for people to ask questions, okay? So whoever's online right now, no one after you, okay? All right.
I'm back. This question is towards Jason. Since you're the youngest, I guess, nominee in this room, how will you use your first full year of Stevens, I guess, as a way of an advantage, and how will you continue to develop yourself as a leader?
Oh, for sure. So with the potential of having 2 years in a position of authority, just brings about so many more opportunities, and really dragging out those initiatives and make sure they're done correctly and efficiently, and really learning the role and performing it perfectly within that last year. I know you talk to any president and they perform perfectly towards the last couple months, and I would just have that for a whole another year potentially. As well as going back to Matt Hunt being the, I think, only president to serve 2 terms, and really bringing SGA to everything it is today, and that's just what he did. So I already have that advantage of SGA being what it is today. So hopefully I can ride with that.
Thank you.
Are there any tickets that would like to respond, since that was a directed question? Shall we move on? Okay.
Hi, it's me again. Another large group of people on our campus are marginalized groups and the people who identify with diversity initiatives on campus. I was wondering if any of the candidates have thought of some...
Could you just speak up a little bit?
Oh, okay. I was wondering if any of the initiatives, any of the candidates have given thought to some of the diversity and inclusion initiatives, or places that they feel that they would like to really address during their time as president or vice president.
So, for example, one of the things that was brought up in the Senate recently, and this year Montalvo brought it up, about the flyers around campus with the voting. They seem to be like very targeted, and they seem to go astray in some values. So he started a whole diversity initiative that he's brought people together towards addressing this issue. Personally, if I had the power, I'd like to work with him more on that, spend more time, because that is a big part of our campus. And then as far as the ESC in general, I sat in on one of the meetings and I saw their way of going about meetings was very disorganized, even though they were trying to implement Robert's rules. So as far as getting our parliamentarian to maybe sit in with the ESC when that does come back, to help better those meetings, bettering that leadership within that organization can then further help the organizations that are in those marginalized groups.
So I was actually at the diversity town hall that NICSER organized yesterday, and it really opened up my eyes to like a lot of the experience that marginalized groups do run into at Stevens. Like, coming from my background, I wasn't aware of it, and I think it's like a great thing that needs to be like exposed, because I feel like the issue is a lot of students don't realize the problems that they run into. So one of the big things that I think would be great is have some sort of training at Leadership Connect, focusing on the student leaders to go forward and almost like dissolve like how can we best represent everybody fairly and accurately, whether it's like making sure that there's no microaggressions and acts along those lines, just to make sure that everybody is pursuing like a safe campus for everybody here.
So I think John touched on this a little bit before already, but I think ESC is the first course of action just because that's something that can be done quickly. It's within the SGA. I think as it currently stands, it doesn't make sense for an organization to be both a club and a board that has, you know, oversight power over another group. I've, you know, talked with representatives within some of the organizations that fall under ESC, and they've, you know, felt pressured in situations that, you know, has kind of been detrimental to their organization. So I think first off would be fostering, you know, a positive community for those marginalized students through the clubs that represent them. And then additionally from there, I think just, you know, working with the administration to create more programs that promote diversity education across the board. I think it's ridiculous that we don't already have a new diversity educator. And additionally, like seeing how much impact the new Clark Scholars Program has had so far, I think more programs along those lines.
That's all the time. Okay. Next question, please.
All right, guys, so this is a bit of a lengthy question, so kind of just bear with me. All right, so you've all kind of touched on transparency and, you know, making connections with the student body, but I was kind of wondering if you could talk specifically about, you know, how you can ensure participation from the kind of less involved percentage of students on campus, and then how can you really make sure that you're keeping their best interest in mind as you're going through your entire term?
We'll begin with Mark and Alex.
So on the topic of uninvolved students on campus, we do really want to push for like a standard club meeting schedule for the first 2 weeks of the semester, so that everybody does have the chance to find, okay, it's really easy to figure out when this organization meets. Maybe I'll like them. Maybe I'll explore my passion, and so on. And that'll allow students to find their passion, and it'll get them involved on campus. They'll find something that they want to do. And right now, it kind of is an issue with trying to find when clubs meet. Some of them advertise it well, some of them don't. So having it one easily publishable place will be easy to involve them on campus. And from that, you're going to have student leaders in each organization who can almost like feed up what the average student is thinking at that point to the SGA, so we can focus our efforts on what directly impacts the most people.
So coming into the SGA, I got a lot of questions of why. Why go into the SGA? They don't do anything. They're not worth it. But I knew they did have tasks, and I knew they were doing a lot of information that people didn't know about. But touching on how to get people involved, people don't know. They just don't know what's going on. I was one of those students that wasn't very aware of what Stevens SGA did. I knew what my high school did, but I didn't know what Stevens SGA was responsible for. And I think stressing the communication and just the overall knowledge of what SGA does will get more students involved. And what every club does will get more students involved.
Adding on to that, I think, you know, we touched on this before. Students are very busy. We see that students are stressed out. And, you know, just to iterate this issue, Middle States found that 27% of students on campus are actually involved in organizations. So.
That's time.
Okay, so 2 organizations that I'd reach out to about this is Student Life and then the Peer Leader group. So we're actually reaching out to undergraduate students and making sure they're checking in with their freshmen, I guess you could say, for example. With regards to Student Life, either me or maybe start like an ad hoc committee to start the conversation with Student Life to see if they have any plans in store to address this issue that's being brought up, but also, being the potential president of the SGA, gathering the peer leaders, having conversation with them. I know, like personally, we have to meet with them until November, but just continuing that maybe until their sophomore year. We use a network called MapWorks to check on their status. So implementing that and keeping the conversation going.
So my last question is, what problems have you faced, if not plan to face, in your campaign, and how have you overcome them or plan to overcome them?
We'll start with Jason and Ryan.
So problems in our overall campaign was focus. We didn't know where our major focus should be, and what should be held higher standards than other initiatives. Another big problem was going into the mindset of we need to make these people believe, these people being the administration, we need to make them trust our opinions and trust that the students know where Stevens needs to go and the students want what Stevens needs to be.
And I think going off that, we even kind of talked about this a little bit with the last question, how students are uninvolved on campus. But, I think what we've really seen from campaigning is just how hard it is to get a hold of people and get in touch with them. And that's something that'll continue into our term.
Yeah, so as I said before, during our campaign, one of the big struggles that we had so far is that people literally did not know that there was a presidential election, and people barely knew about the SGA. I think we'd definitely have much more turnout rates for, especially voting. I mean, that affects all of us, if we could actually get people more involved from the get-go. And as Ryan just said, some people are just straight up, they just don't understand what is going on around them. That's not their fault. There's definitely more ways and avenues that we can take to try and get people more interested in the SGA. I mean, that was our biggest hurdle with the campaign. People just being disinterested. I'm sure they'd be way more interested if they actually knew what was going on. So, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd say as far as addressing that issue within the next year, again, working with Alina and the Public Relations Committee as far as improving what the students know.
That's time, John. All right, Mark and Alex.
So the way I see this question, I kind of have a very personal perspective on it, because as someone who hasn't really been involved in the SGA and has worked with multiple clubs, I see issues literally all over the place. Whether it was when I was starting my martial arts club and administration tried to block me at just about every step of the way, trying to say, no, you can't do this, this isn't okay. Working through those roadblocks, and in addition to that, I'm made well aware of a lot of what the issues are around campus because of the STUT. The STUT has been a great resource and a tool to myself and Mark to really see what students think, what their opinions are, and what they want to see be done and changed on campus. And it brings to light a lot of different issues, and it will constantly do that. So we, working closely, trying to find out what the issues are.
Thank you. All right. That wraps up our audience questions for. That wraps up our audience question of the debate. We want to thank everyone for coming out and everyone that is watching at home, as well as the candidates. We would like to conclude the debate by giving all the tickets 2 minutes for closing statements.
And we're going to start from the right, as we did with starting opening statements, and work towards our left. So, Jason and Ryan, if you'd like to start us off.
Great. As we previously stated, our tagline is creating greater opportunities through accountability, efficiency, and communication within the administration, faculty, and SGA and student body. To reiterate the objectives we outlined previously, we plan to push for more student involvement in key decisions affecting the school and greater transparency from the administration, especially in regards to spending and other financial information. Along with those goals, we plan to improve Stevens' academics and campus pride, as well as reevaluate the current state of the SGA itself.
In addition to these initiatives, and core to our objective of creating greater opportunities, is our plan to facilitate greater collaboration between students, professors, and the Career Center. If elected, we will push for a stronger SFA to help foster student-faculty connections. This will help students to leverage faculty connections, as well as open the door to more students for the ongoing research opportunities on this campus. At the core of any great educational institution is the people. Regardless of any framework and infrastructure, Stevens will always be driven forward by the students and faculty dedicated to the institution. By creating a greater alliance between students and professors, we will ensure great success at the university that we get to call home.
I just want to thank everybody for, again, coming out and spending your time with us. Please feel free to reach out to not only me, but any of the candidates here. Again, everybody wants to really just see Stevens improve, and if you have any questions or concerns, feel free.
All right. Mark and Alex?
So in closing, I wanted to emphasize the 3 pillars of our campaign or initiatives that really we see affecting every student, living, learning, and social. So whether it's trying to create, like, in the long run, we want to have less expensive housing in Hoboken, so you're able to, like, not have as much student debt. Whether it's making sure that you're pursuing your end career goals and working at that dream company, maybe even right out of college, or even just making it easier to get involved on campus, finding that, like, connection, that click that really works with them. We see these 3 things as the main thing that affects the student body here, and it's something we really want to push going forward and making sure that the SGA isn't just for student leaders necessarily, but everybody on campus.
And just to go on more echoing what Mark said, the SGA is the starting point for a lot of these initiatives. These initiatives can't really be taken care of anywhere else, so it's important that they start here, and that works from the top down. So quick response to the Board of Trustees point before. From my experience, and obviously I've heard different things than Rami's heard, maybe we can talk about this later on, but what I've heard is that, same thing with the committees. I don't want anybody on committees. But moving off that point, I want Stevens made a better school. I want everybody to leave here having a better experience, having become a better person by attending Stevens, both academically and socially.
Okay, so in closing, I want to say thank you all for your questions. I really appreciate them. If we didn't answer anything clearly, please stay after. We'd love to talk with you. There we go. Okay. So I want to leave with you an idea, right? So who all here has seen the movie The Mighty Ducks? Quick raise of hands. All right, cool. So we all know how ducks fly in a V, right? Okay, so there's actually 2 main reasons why they do this. One, in the sense that excluding the duck up front, the rest that are following behind are actually benefiting from the reduction of wind resistance. So in a little translation, Tim and I, we are fully understanding of what the time commitment is to be the president and vice president of the school. When it comes to enforcing change, we know we're going to experience pushback, and we know that we're probably going to have to put a lot of more work than is basically required for the position. When it comes to going into that second idea of why they fly in a V, it's actually the orientation provides them the easiest way to communicate and a direct line of sight to minimize the possibility of one duck being left behind, right? So, excuse me, sorry. So what I want to say with that is just like this is going to be a conversational term. I want you to talk with us, ask us questions, and make sure that your voice is heard, because then we're going to take that as our one responsibility, take it to the administration, get the proper feedback that you need so we can propel Stevens forward for you, all the students. And I'd like to emphasize our 3 pillars again, as Mark and Alex were saying. Ours is striving to improve together. So let Tim and I, let us be your leading ducks. Let us all strive to improve together, and then together we will fly. Thank you.
All right, so
I know I ran out of time in the intro, but if you want to learn more, talk after. Thanks.
Okay, thank you to all the candidates once again. This now concludes the 2018 SGA President and Vice Presidential Debate. I'd like to give a big thank you to SIT TV for taking all the time and energy to make this day a success. And one last reminder for everybody in the room, all you candidates, and also everybody at home, the voting is open until next Wednesday, November 14th at 1 p.m., and you can access voting at www.stevens.edu/vote.
All right, and with all of that, good luck to all the candidates, and everyone have a good night.
That was so much fun. That was so great. Thanks. Well done, timekeeper. Thank you.
Good teamwork.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Well done, well done.
Excellent job moderating.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
10 out of 10. Fantastic job.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tim. John, thank you. Good job. Ryan, awesome job.
Thank you.
keep those close.